Good morning, or good afternoon, everybody, should I say. Hello, and welcome to today's session. I'm Robert Downs. I work for the Federation of Small Businesses, and I will be guiding you through today's session, which is all about making tax digital and a preparation workshop to make sure you can get things right when we go live in April. So MCD is the government's plan to modernise the tax system. It is the biggest change to the tax system in a generation. It's going to affect around 3 million businesses over a phased period. And today we have with us our two experts. So we have a bookkeeper, Karen Garrettley from COS Bookkeeping in Greater Manchester. And we have Nikki Antley-Sayer from LWA Accountancy based in Warrington. So in this session today, we're going to go through the whole MCD scenario for businesses which will start in April. So we're going to, in this session, you will accurately identify if and when you're going to have to pay, you go to MTD. We're going to be looking at the digital setup plan. So that'll be a clear roadmap for implementing HMRC compliant software and digital record keeping. You will fully understand the process, data, and deadlines for submitting quarterly updates, which is what MTD is all about. We'll be looking at year-end mastery, knowledge of the new year-end process, which you're all going to have to get used to, including the end of period statement, or EOPS as it's known, and final declaration. We'll be looking at some of the common pitfalls and issues that you may experience or be concerned about and have questions. And we will end the session after our presentation with Q&A, so you can ask our experts exactly the questions you want to understand about MCD and how you're going to prepare and embark on your journey for compliance. So let's get started. We've got Karen from COS Bookkeeping who's going to be presenting first. Karen, hello.
Hello.
Hello. So, do you want to just sort of give us a little bit of a bit more information about MTD, the who, why, what, where, and when of making tax digital?
Well, to summarize it, so far, self-assessment has been annual. There is still going to be an annual return. They've just renamed it. But in addition, it's going to be quarterly returns. They will be not in as much detail, but they're quarterly. And at the moment, it only affects self-employed and landlords.
Okay. I'm bringing Nikki in on this one. Nikki, what's your take on MTD? Just your view, the whys and wherefores
I
as
think
an accountant.
really, yeah, I mean, it's been introduced to sort of give more of a real-time presentation of income and tax rather than once a year, so that they can reduce mistakes and errors really appearing in tax returns that we experience a lot.
And what would you both say? I mean, my comment at the start was this is the biggest change to the tax system in a generation. Would you concur with that, both of you?
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
say.
I
Yeah,
think so. And I think possibly for the majority of people, actually, it's going to force a lot of people into computerizing their systems. Quite a few people are frightened of that. But my experience so far is when I've shown people what the modern software and apps can do, they've gone, oh, that's easy. And
mm,
oh, I think I might enjoy doing that. And
yeah,
oh, just have to take a photograph. Oh, I only have to click that. And so I think it's that fear of the unknown very often is the barrier to this. But I think most people I think will be quite pleased once they've done it and once they've got used to it.
yeah,
Well, yeah, it's fear of the tax system and fear of the unknown.
Yeah,
So it's two huge
yeah,
things really for businesses, and tax
yeah.
is taxing. Hopefully, after today's session, it'll be a little bit less taxing. So,
Mm,
Karen, shall we crack on with the presentation now, and then we'll get that out of the way, and then we can come to the Q&As from our audience today.
yeah, absolutely. So let's get that shared. Okay, can we see that okay?
Yep, that's good for
Yep,
me.
lovely. Okay, so just to summarize, self-assessment for the self-employed and landlords, that's what's changing. There's going to be quarterly returns that have to be submitted digitally using compatible software. And I'll go into that in more detail. This is what I'm going to cover. I'm going to try and make it as condensed as possible. So I'm sure you will have some more questions. But I want to cover the main points. And as we go through, I will try and tackle some of the questions that have already been submitted.
Yeah, we have a lot of submitted questions.
Yes. Okay, so the first thing is who is affected? At the moment, it doesn't include partnerships. So if you're self-employed because you're in a partnership, it at the moment doesn't include you, but the intention is that it will. HMRC have just not yet given us a date or any indication. I suspect that she's still trying to work out how they're going to do that bit. So it is only self-employed landlords. Bear in mind as well that you may also be employed, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But if, as well as being employed, you have a property and also maybe a bit of a side hustle, this may impact you. So when does it start? It starts as early as April this year. So there's not a lot of time. I'll talk a little bit more later on about deadlines. But it starts with those whose turnover is 50,000. Now, there's been a bit of confusion about this 50,000. It is income turnover. It's not profit. It's your sales. It's the amount you get in before you take off your expenses. My recommendation is if you think you're going to get captured by any of this at any point, start it now, get it in place now, don't wait. And again, as we go through, I'll give you good reasons why you should do that. Now, to work out this turnover, if you are also employed, exclude your employed income. But if you're self-employed and you've got properties, add those together. And that will tell you at what point you have to do this. So what's actually changing? No paper records. I've had a few meetings with HMRC, and one of the inspectors, that was the first thing he said to me was no paper records. Now, that doesn't mean you can't accept a paper receipt off somebody, but it just means that you'll have to convert it into something digital. And software.
Does that mean just as simple as taking a picture of it?
Karen? Yeah. If your software allows it, depends on what software, but yeah, ideally your software will you'll have an app on your phone, you'll open it and snap a photograph, and that's digital. You won't actually be sending a copy of that to HMRC, but you do need to keep it. And if it's attached to your software, you always know where it is and it's always safe, which my husband loves because it means that he can lose his pieces of paper knowing that they're safe somewhere in the cloud. So no digital records. And the big change as well, the next big change is that it's going to be quarterly, not to the same detail as an annual self-assessment is now. And that's where people like Nikki will come in with helping people for the year end, which is a little bit more complex than your quarterly returns. But the big thing is it has to be with compatible software. And again, I'll talk about that a bit later.
A lot of questions about that, Karen, actually.
Yeah, I thought there might be. Yeah. And the third thing is you won't be completing a self-assessment return. Instead, it's going to be called a final year-end declaration. They've just renamed it, really. And this is going to be due after the tax year has ended. And again, I'll go into that in a bit more detail. So let's look at the dates. I think these dates for self-employed will become ingrained in everybody's memory. So the first period has to be submitted by the 7th of August. If you are VAT registered, you'll be used to 7th and dates similar to this, but at least with VAT, not everybody has to do it at the same time. With this, everybody is submitting at the same time. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how HMRC systems cope with it. So you've technically got until the 7th of August to get your first return in, but please don't wait until then. Get it sorted as early as you possibly can. It's one of those where just go for it. Just start it as soon as you can and be prepared. The HMRC inspector that I spoke to a couple of months ago, he said, just don't be late. He said, send it. Even if it's not right, just send it so that you're not late. So just make sure you make a note of those dates. So those are the quarterly due dates. Then you've got the end of year final declaration and payments due. This bit actually hasn't changed. This is the same as your current self-assessment system. So you've still got the 31st of January deadline. So right now, the deadline, 31st of January, which is next week, that is for the year to April 2025. It would be the same. So next year, you'll be looking at the tax year and April 2026. And the payments are still due the same, 31st of January and 31st of July. So none of that has changed, just the name of the self-assessment has changed. So what do you need to send each quarter? Now, these are only headlines that you've got here. It's your income and it's your allowable expenditure, but it's just headlines. You're not sending details. You're not sending details of who you've invoiced and who you've had bills from or anything like that. It's all, your software will bring it all together for you and complete the boxes. Whether that changes in the future, who knows? But right now, that's all that's been sent. Now, these quarterly returns are also cumulative. So if in the first quarter you find that you'd actually made a mistake or you didn't really know what you were doing and you just submitted anything, it just means that you can correct that. And when you submit the second quarter, you're actually submitting quarters 1 and 2 together. So any corrections will come out in the wash. If you are already VAT registered, you'll be used to the quarterly Making Tax Digital for VAT. It's very, very similar. The process is similar. The information you're sending is very, very, very similar. Let's have a look at the end of year, what's going to get sent. It's going to be a confirmation of everything that has already been submitted in the quarterly returns. Again, there's a chance to make any corrections, any adjustments, allowances. Also adding in your PAYE income from your employed, if you are employed, your employed side of things. Again, everything that you would currently put on your year-end self-assessment is what will go in to the annual. I put a little note there just to make sure that you have to have submitted your fourth quarter before you can do the end of year submission. Fines, the bit everybody doesn't want to hear about. There are going to be late submission fines. And the first one would be £200 when you reach your penalty point threshold. So penalty points are awarded for each time you're late. And unfortunately, points don't make prizes, they make fines. However, HMRC have recently announced that they're going to delay these penalty points for this first tax year.
So they're taking a softly approach. Is that
they are,
premise?
yeah. But it's another reason to try and get it done now. Make your mistakes now in this first year. So even if you don't have to do it, I'd recommend that you do, get used to it, and then at least you know you're not going to get fined. I'm not sure whether they'll be as lenient next year. Also, if you don't use compatible software, you will be fined £400, up to £400. There's also late payment charges, but that's not really changed. You've got that anyway now if you pay late. So who can submit these returns? Well, you can do them, your accountant can do them, or a bookkeeper, or it could be a spouse or a partner could do it for you. It might be that you want to have a go at doing the quarterly ones yourself, which are more straightforward, but then allow your accountant at the end of year to bring it all together, check it, and do all the allowances and the wonderful things that they do to ensure you're claiming for everything you should be.
Will HMRC, Karen, have a helpline for this for the first year to help people get over the barrier of this change?
That's a good question. I've not heard anything about a helpline. Have you, Nikki?
No, I've not heard anything about a helpline. I think a lot of the things that when they implement this, it was like MTD for VAT. It sort of came in, this is the plan, and then they sort of adjusted as they went along. So they introduced a little bit of help here and there. But, I think not everything has been set in stone with it yet, has they?
It's not all been ironed out. I mean,
Exactly.
they had launched a testing phase, but I believe hardly anybody took it up.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a suck it and see.
Yeah, it definitely is. I
yeah.
agree, Karen. I think like I say, with MTD for VAT, it was a bit like that. It was a bit sort of hit and miss. There's a lot of things, a lot of questions I get asked at the moment that there's no answer for it yet because HMRC is saying, we haven't made a decision on that yet. That's still in the testing phase. So I think basically once April comes, they will have done the first year of testing, and a lot of things will come out before the first quarter's filed.
Yeah, yeah.
So for people on the
Absolutely
call
agree.
today, if they do run into an issue, quite early into this, your advice would be to pick up the phone, speak to your accountant, speak to your bookkeeper.
Yes,
Yeah,
I think you're going to get a lot more sense out of them at this stage.
yeah,
And again, some of it might be, well, we don't know yet. We're going to be trying a few of these out. We've not submitted one of this type of return before. It's
yeah.
new to everybody, and it's all been done at the same time.
I
Yeah.
think as well, a big thing to do with MTD that I just thought that I would mention is self-assessment was on an old system, not to get too technical about HMRC, but it was on an old system. Pay as you earn was on a separate system. None of these systems sort of talk to each other. So if you've got an issue with one tax, you can't sort of say, can you just offset it against the other one, or can you just sort it out between the two? What they've done is they've brought a system that is bringing all that information together. That's why they're going to be able in these quarterly returns to be able to bring your pay as you earn income in quarterly from the RTI submissions. So all these systems are going to be basically talking to each other. They're going to bring CIS in. All these used to stand alone, but they've built this system. There's a lot more going behind the scenes than just, oh, we're bringing in these quarterly returns. So just to add a bit of clarity, that's why nothing is sort of set in stone, because all these things are still getting tweaked.
Yeah, yeah.
That's helpful of HMRC. So if you don't have an accountant or a bookkeeper, and you're an FSB member, you can always pick up the phone to our tax helpline as well. And there will be reams and reams of information about MTD on the FSB website too, I should add.
That's great. And then as we find things, probably the same as Nikki, we'll put things on our website as well, and try and just keep people up to date as much as we possibly can. So what are the next steps then? Well, one of the things that I was quite surprised about was that you actually have to register for the Making Tax Digital. It's not a case of, well, you're eligible, let's just do it. You have to actually register. We've included a QR code here for you to register with HMRC. But you could also just Google register MTD for IT. Try and get that done as soon as you can. I put on here about a bank account. I've spoken to a lot of self-employed people who just have one bank account and all their personal income and expenditure goes through the same bank as their business expenditure. Now, when you start using software, it's so much easier if you just separate those into two different bank accounts. It doesn't have to be a business bank account as such. It could just be another bank account. There's lots of challenger banks out there where you can open a bank account literally within a few minutes and just have it separate, because it then talks to your software and it will just make life so much easier. So that's a really simple thing you can do. The one that might be a bit more of a challenge is actually choosing the right software. You need to make sure the software has been approved by HMRC for compatibility. There are lots of things that you can do around bridging software. You might be able to get some free software, but you've got to make sure that it works for you and that it doesn't cause you more admin and more work. So you just need to do a bit of research on that. I've got a little bit more on the next slide about software. That's just a few that I've put on there. There's lots of them around. Here at COS Bookkeeping, we use those that are listed: QuickBooks, Xero, Hammock, Sage. There are quite a few around as well. They've all got different offerings, particularly for this Making Tax Digital. Some software is free, and some of these companies offer a free version, but they don't always have lots of functionality. So you might find that although it's free, you're actually having to do quite a bit of work outside of it. It's worth just spending a bit of time looking. You might then go, do you know, for just a few pounds per month, it's going to be so much easier if I've got something that snaps photographs, that links with my bank, that can automatically recognize last time I bought from that supplier, the system did this with it, and then for it to do that again for you going forward. I would say look for software that has bank feeds, which is where it will link directly to your software. So your bank and your software talk to each other, save so much time. And a phone app, something where you can take photographs on the go, raise invoices to your clients, and track mileage. The mileage thing was there. I had a chap last week who said, "Oh, wow, so I don't have to do a spreadsheet anymore." I said, "No, it'll do all of that for you. You just put the parameters in, say what vehicle you've got, what the pence is per mile. It even knows when you reach the 10,000 miles that it needs to then reduce it down. It just makes life so much easier." So they're just a few tips.
Just a couple of questions on this one, Karen.
Yeah, of course.
Perhaps
Yeah.
if we go back a slide.
Yeah.
Quite a few of the pre-submitted questions were about, is there a free option we can use?
Mm.
I'm guessing from what you've said, yes, there are free software. There is free software out there, but it's probably best to pay for something that's going to give you a little bit better service, more
Personally,
functionality.
I think, yeah, I've just got some reservations. I mean, when you've been bookkeeping for 35 years, you've seen a lot of software. And I've seen free software where you think, well, why is it free? Someone's got to be paying for it somewhere. So it's either free to start with, and then they're going to start charging you later on, or it's free now, but they're going to have a look at what the take up is. And if there's not a huge take up, suddenly you've not got support, it's no longer supported and you've got to move. It could be that it's absolutely basic what they're offering you. And then when you realize that you need more things or you want more things, it's then going to start costing you money. And then also, what if you've got a problem with that software? If it's free, have you got the support you need to make sure that it gets fixed? You don't want to be there on the 7th of August going, it won't work, and you can't ring anybody.
Yeah. Good
So
point.
just things
So
to think about.
I'll perhaps put you on the spot, both of you here. Of all the sort of the common ones out there, you've listed a couple on the side there.
Mm.
Which one do you think is the easiest to use, or which one do you recommend to your clients? For you first, Karen.
That it depends on the client. For instance, if you've got, say, 1 to 5 properties or even more properties, Hammock is a really good one to look at, which is specifically for properties.
That's for the
And
landlord then.
it's the landlord one. Yeah, it is. It's really good for that. And they've been geared up for this MTD for a good couple of years now. Um, QuickBooks and Xero, there's very often, and Sage actually, the basic functionality on all of them is the same and it does what you expect them to do. But it just depends on whether you've got a bit more of a complex business where you need projects, do you need purchase orders, or do you think you need to computerize these things? Do you have stock that you need to be maintaining? Do you have another business that you work with that are already using, say, for instance, Xero? So you don't want to learn another system like QuickBooks. You might as well then use Xero because you're used to it. Sometimes it's down to price, in which case it could be QuickBooks. They have a sole trader version, which is really cheap and has really good functionality and also handles CIS really well. So price-wise, it could be QuickBooks.
How much is that for QuickBooks then? When we talk about cheap, people will be looking for, value for money.
You put me on the spot now. I can't remember. I think it's under £10 a month.
Oh, so it is affordable then.
Yeah, the prices are all on the websites for all of these people.
Yeah.
However, we can get discounts on those, which we do pass on to our clients.
Okay. Same question for you, Nikki. Just which one do you think would you recommend for people if they're at this choosing moment now?
Yeah, I think same as what Karen said, Hammock is very good for landlords. That's highly recommended, and they've sort of specialised in that, haven't they, Karen? So
Yeah.
that's really geared up. Another one that I know some of our clients use only because they get it free is Free Agent.
Yeah.
It's Free Agent because you get it free with the NatWest Bank, or if you don't bank with them, then it's a nominal fee, like around about £10 or something. But as Karen says, it's the functionality. There's no point in you get what you're paying for. If there's no point in paying, getting it for free and then it getting to the crunch time and you can't submit the return because you didn't pay for that bit.
Yeah.
So I would source these. Zero is very good. I I don't really do accounts because I do tax now. So I specialise just in tax. But a lot of our team in accounts, they link up with Zero, as Karen will as well. And the sort of like the cloud-based products, so you can remotely access in and help clients to correct anything or get things right for them, can't you, Karen?
Yeah.
So they're all very good in their own right, but it depends on the size of the business, what functions you need, um, that's and the price you want to pay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
So there's not one size fits all, really.
Correct.
It's like us as humans, we're all individual.
Yeah.
And also, I think if I very often find that if people have had experience of a certain software from years ago, they might find it easier to switch to QuickBooks, for instance, because they perhaps used Sage years ago, Sage 50. Other people who have never used a bookkeeping system before might find Sage easier. So sometimes people will say, I can't get my head around that particular software. Sometimes it's just because they just need a bit of help.
Yeah.
And I do get that using a new software can be very frustrating, especially if you're not a bookkeeper, which is why I also recommend it's worth spending some time and possibly a bit of money just learning how to use it properly, because it will just save so much heartache for you later. You don't want to be sitting there going, oh, where's that button gone? I had it a minute ago. What do I do? How do I process this?
Yeah. I think
Right.
another thing as well, Karen, is
Mm.
with Zero, there's so many add-ons, isn't there?
Yeah.
Different apps, so depends on what self-employment you're in.
Yes.
There could be other things that do like job costings, and they're just
Yeah.
apps that interlink within them. I think that's very much sort of geared up for an app based, isn't it? Rather
It
than
is. It is, yeah. And also an upgrade path. It might be that the self-employment is quite small at the moment, but you know you're going to grow. And so you need to make sure the software you pick is going to grow with you.
Mhm.
And also the support you're going to get. You can always get support from your bookkeeper or your accountant, but also are you going to get support from the company? QuickBooks has a chat support and a phone support and email. Zero has email in and a community based questions and answers. So again, depends on what you need. Sage has also got all the different ways you can contact them as well, all included.
Yeah, I mean, it's for you guys, for the bookkeepers and the accountants across the country. I think they're going to be 2026 is going to be a particularly busy year, and actually going
Yeah,
forward as well.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. I know it's funny looking at how things have moved on. I can remember being told about 10 years ago that because of cloud bookkeeping, cloud accounting, AI coming on, that bookkeepers will be a thing of the past. And I can tell you, we've never been so busy.
Yeah, I think the thing is as well, with everything changing, you need that support from,
Mm,
like bookkeepers, accountants, because, people say, well, if I'm going to be doing all these quarterly returns, then why do I need an accountant?
yeah,
Well, it's the advice. An accountant's more advisory than
yeah,
number crunching these days. Advice on reliefs that are available, claims that are available, to make sure that you've put in all your provisions or your accruals, prepayments, these sort of things that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do just by being a layman and doing your
yeah.
returns.
Absolutely. It's accountants' advice is just invaluable. There's been a lot just recently, all over social about people's tax codes.
Mhm.
There's a huge number of employees with incorrect tax codes, and the HMRC is saying it's the employee's responsibility to check them.
Yeah,
And there's
it's
people paid a lot of tax that they didn't need to.
they've
And this is
brought
the
in a
kind
new
of thing
Yeah, they
you
brought in a
would
new
deal with.
system
Mm.
where they just put in these automatic adjustments and say you've underpaid tax for putting this automatic adjustment in. And when you speak to HMRC, they basically say, well, it's because of RTI. We believe that there is an underpayment, so we're just going to put it in the code and we can't remove it.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
Okay, right, we're halfway through the session. We have
Okay,
over 50 questions submitted, so shall we
right.
crack on, push on?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm nearly done now. So, the way we can help is that we can help with recommending a software for you and give you discounts on those softwares. We're also in talks with Xero and QuickBooks about offering free in-person training. At the moment, it's here in Manchester, but we will also be doing video recordings of how to use certain softwares as well. And I'm still in talks with people like Hammock and Sage too about that. There's a QR code here that you can scan for some questions and answers that are also on our website. And you can also fill in a very brief questionnaire to say that you're interested in some support. And
Okay.
that takes me on to the questions now, if you want to lead on that, Rob.
Yes. So we have a lot of questions pre-submitted, and we've got a lot of questions coming through the Q&A on this call. So I'll start with some of the pre-submitted ones, I think, to begin with. So Amrit's asking, what if his turnover is under 50,000 last year, but will probably go over this year? Will he still have to start in April 26?
Do you
I
want to
can
answer
answer
that
that.
one, Nikki? Yeah.
Yeah, I can answer that. So basically, you're mandated from your 24-25 return. So if you're over the threshold on your 24-25 return for your qualifying income, you will be mandated from April 2026. If you aren't, then you may be April 27. So if he's below, then he won't be mandated by HMRC.
But they can still voluntarily register, can't they? They can
Yes.
register now and use that first year when HMRC don't really know what's happening either to not get points.
Yeah.
We don't want penalty points.
No, get in the system.
Okay. Another common one we've had in actually is around universal credit. So Josh is asking, will
Mm.
MTD have an impact on my universal credit? And we've been asked that a few times actually. So which one of you would like to pick that one up?
Karen?
Yeah, I've got quite a bit on that actually. We've just this morning put something on our website about this. You've actually got more to do. It's technically not going to affect it. However, if you're self-employed at the moment, you have to submit monthly returns to the DWP. So you'll now have this quarterly return to do to HMRC in addition to that. So although making tax digital won't directly change how your universal credit is calculated, it is going to add an extra layer of admin work and complexity in managing this reporting because they've also got slightly different rules as well. There's a lot of discussions at the moment in the accounting arenas where they're saying that, again, something needs to be brought together and align these systems. But
Yeah.
it is a bit of a disjointed system, but it shouldn't technically or directly affect the universal credit, as in you're not going to do a quarterly submission and suddenly your universal credit will change. They're still actually two separate systems.
Okay. We have another question from Sarah, and actually this one's been asked a few times as well in various different formats. But what if they make an error in quarterly reporting? Can it be corrected?
Yes, because it's cumulative. So if in quarter three you're submitting and you realise you made a mistake in quarter one, when you're submitting quarter three, you're actually submitting quarters one, two, and three. It's cumulative.
I was saying, right, okay.
Yes. So any corrections you make, and in your software, all the softwares I've ever used, you can go back and make a correction to any transaction. So if you realize you've missed a zero off, or you added too many in, or you've missed some receipts out, it's cumulative. So it will automatically pick up any of those changes that you've made.
Okay.
If it's the
Nikki, you
last
got to comment on that?
quarter. Yeah, if
Yeah.
it's the last quarter though, isn't it, Karen? If it's quarter four, you just resubmit quarter four, don't you? You don't do it on the adjustments at the end. It's
No, you can,
just
yeah, you
quarter four.
resubmit quarter four.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great stuff. Jenny's asking about holidays. Can she file early if she's away?
As far as I know, it can be done
Yeah.
early. I think as long as the period's finished.
Yeah.
I've not seen anything different to that. But yeah, it's always good to do it early because
Right,
VAT
okay.
can be filed early. So
We have a question from Gary. Sorry, Nikki, you want to come in?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think it's as long as it's submitted within 10 days prior to the period end. I think that's the
Mm,
rules.
right.
Okay. Gary wants to know how he claims business reliefs and allowances and at what point.
So the capital allowances, if the software allows them to, they should be able to do that through the quarterly returns as they're going along, when it's incurred. The trade-in property allowance, again, that should be done as it goes along. However, if it's something like rent a room relief, that's done in the final quarter.
Okay. Karen, do you want to add anything to that?
No, that's Nikki's domain. Thank you.
Okay. Right. I'm going to move on to the submitted questions actually we've got from the session. Those are the pre-submitted ones. Well, just a small selection. So David is asking, what about the additional cost of software and accountancy fees that will increase with it being quarterly submission?
I assume he means can he claim for those to get tax relief? And yeah, they're fully claimable, aren't they, Nikki, those?
Yeah, they'll be fully deductible. My point in relation to accountancy fees, if you're dealing with the quarterly submissions yourself, then we should only be getting involved at the end. So that shouldn't impact as you're going along. So there shouldn't be additional quarterly fee unless you're not doing it.
Okay. Have another question here. How do you prove that you're not earning enough for each year to yet to be included or even be included?
It's from the 24-25 tax return. So if that's been submitted, HMRC already know. If it's being submitted in the next week, they will know. And that's what determines whether you're in or you're out.
Right, okay. Um, Question from David. Does limited company owner equal self-employed?
No, no,
Yeah, so limited companies just aren't included in MTD, are they?
no. Limited company is
Yet.
a separate entity. So the director is actually an employee of that company. They're not self-employed, so they're not in. There's no date yet, Karen, for corporation tax been determined,
No.
as with partnerships.
Right, okay. Question from Emma. I own a portfolio of properties, and my husband and I own that we own, and we share the income. Is it 50k each from turnover or total turnover?
So for jointly owned properties, it's how you receive the income. So if it's husband and wife, the income is going to be combined. It's going to be in one account, I presume. So it's 50-50, dependent on ownership. So it would be on the turnover, not on the profit.
Right, okay. Another question. Do you need to retain the paper copies, e.g. receipts, even if there's a digital record in case the digital files get corrupted?
Karen?
So that's I would say you don't need to keep the paper files as long as you've got a software that you can rely on and that you can trust. I know multi-million-pound turnover companies who now don't have any paperwork. But it is, as far as I know, Nick, you might be able to tell me if this is true, that if, I don't know, for some reason, God forbid, Zero went down for some reason and we all lost our paperwork, you're going to be one of millions of people where that's happened. But
Yeah.
is it still the taxpayer's responsibility to keep that paperwork? A lot isn't even printed these days.
Yeah, I mean, as far as HMRC are concerned, you've got to keep your records for 6 years.
Mm,
Whether the new transition with MCD and everyone's got to have digital records, that there is going to be some change in that. I mean, I have seen that if you have got a digital record that you can reproduce the original, then fine. But as you say, if the software goes down, then you've got nothing to rely on, have you? I'm sure the software providers will be covering themselves on that sort of thing. There'll be some sort of
yeah.
backup somewhere,
Yeah, I would
surely.
think, yeah. And again, that goes back to choosing your software, making sure you've got
Yeah,
faith in that software. And
definitely.
if you don't think you have, then have a different system so that you
Yeah,
perhaps have got them stored elsewhere.
yeah,
Google offer free storage. You could store copies of everything in that as well, just to make sure
yeah,
you've got them before they go into your accounting software.
I
yeah,
suppose On the same question, bit of a different sort of tangent of it though. If someone was using one particular provider to start with, didn't like it, and moved after a couple of years, they would probably then lose access to that data they've submitted. So it might be the question might be yes, it's probably best to keep a backup copy if you're taking pictures and that kind of thing of your receipts and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it is your responsibility to make sure you've got access to those records. And again, some softwares will allow you to download everything. QuickBooks has got a facility where you can go into attachments and just download them all en masse. But you still need all the transactions. If you've got access to your bank records, then that's fine. You can usually go back and get those. Some softwares have the ability to actually do take a backup. We also offer a software that, for a small fee per month, actually backs up your accounting records. And if you have to restore it, it restores them into Excel so that you don't have to have access to the original software anymore. So there's lots of different backup systems. But yeah, if you just say, I'm not paying for it anymore, you've lost access. Now, some of the companies, software companies, will keep your records on their servers for 6 years, even if
Right.
you're not
Okay.
paying for it, but others don't. So you'd
Do we
need to
know who
check.
those are, Karen? Who do keep them?
I don't know all of them. I do know that Zero keep the last time I asked them anyway, whether that's changed or not, I don't know. But the last time I asked Zero, which is a couple of years ago, they said they do keep them. Because sometimes it could be a company that's been liquidated. And I know I've had receivers or liquidators contact me and say, we need to have access to the records again. And I know with Zero, certainly I've been able to contact them and they've reopened it.
Okay.
But I couldn't tell you about the others. I haven't asked the question.
Right, okay. We've got a question that came in sort of 12:15. I think whilst you were presenting, and the question is: so we are submitting 4 quarterly submissions and then an annual one as well. So that's 5
Yeah.
in
Yes,
total.
that is correct. Yeah.
Would that
Yeah.
mean that the last quarter and the final submission, they're coming fairly close together?
They could be. But you've still got until the 31st of January to do it, just like you have now. After you, so you finish on the 5th of April, you've got to the 31st of January to do the final. I wouldn't recommend you leave it until then, but so many people do, don't they, Nikki?
Yeah, I mean, once the end of period statement goes in with the adjustments and stuff like that, then obviously you're bringing in the pay as you earn, any dividend income, investment income that HMRC haven't got, because as I explained before about these systems all coming together, they're going to have pension income in there, they're going to know about these different things. But that will be the accountant's job to say what's missing, what are we normally reporting, these things need to go in, and that will be in the last return. But my advice is get that done early, because HMRC are going to do the calculation, which you could, if you're doing it yourself, you just accept that calculation, whereas we would potentially challenge it if it's something's missing or astray. And then the client, once they've agreed to that, that goes in. The payment of tax, as Karen explained before, doesn't change. It's still going to be January and July. So therefore, if the return goes in May, you've got till January to prepare for payments.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got another question here. I'm not sure I quite understand this, but hopefully you two experts will. I've been using accrual-based accounting. Well, I need to transfer to cash-based accounting.
As far as I know, it should all be cash on self-assessment now, shouldn't it, Nikki?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think you can do self-assessment on accrual basis anymore.
No,
Yeah.
yeah,
What
that's
what
why.
would what is accrual basis? Just perhaps for people not familiar with that term.
Accrual basis is, I mean, Karen, you're a bookkeeper, you might be able to explain better than me. I don't do accounts, but accrual basis is matching. So this is where we bring in prepayments and accruals and stuff like that. Cash basis is money in and money out.
Yeah. So if you've invoiced a customer on the last day of the financial year or the tax year, but you've not yet been paid it, then you don't include it because you've not actually been paid it. So the cash
Okay.
basis is only what you've actually received money in and what you've actually paid out.
Right, okay. That answers your question. Simon is asking, if I own a flat to rent in a building of many flats, do I have to go MTD? I'm also employed.
So if he's been mandated, if his income's over the threshold and he's
Yeah, it's
mandated,
threshold.
then he's in. If he's not earning 50 grand rental income from it a year, then he's not in yet. But he might be in if it's 30 or 20 over the next, because it's staggering periods.
Yeah. Can we just perhaps just to go back to the presentation from Karen, can we go back just to look at sort of the staging process because it is phased. So it's 50,000 turnover this April.
Yeah, then it's 30. If it's
That's
over
next
30,
year.
the following April, and if it's over 20, it's the year after. Now, this qualifying income, which is people are getting confused about, it's not just, oh, I've got £20,000 from self-employment, so I'm not in till 3 years' time. That person might have rental income, gross rental income of 25, 30,000. If that's the case, then they're in at the 50,000 because they combine them two together. If it's, if they've only got 10,000 from rental and 20 self-employed, then they're going to be in it from when it goes over 30 because they'll combine the two sources of income.
What about for employed people? Does that add up to it as well? No.
No, nothing from employment, nothing from savings income, dividend income. We forget all about that. It's only purely self-employed income, isn't it, Karen, and rental income, them combined.
At the moment.
At the moment, yeah.
Things may change.
And what happens if people are earning less than 20,000? Where do they fit into this?
They're not in it.
They won't ever be in it, as far as we know at the moment.
Well, we've only got 3 stages yet.
Well, I wouldn't say ever.
Don't count your chickens.
No. At the moment, they're not included.
Yeah.
Okay. Question from Genevieve. So just to confirm, does the earliest we can submit the first MTD would be July 26th / 7th of August in brackets, regardless our income?
I don't understand regardless of income.
No.
Well, she goes on to say, I mean, even though our income was above 20,000 and we choose to join early.
Oh, right, yeah. So choosing to join, you can choose to join, can't you, Karen?
Yeah, you can. You can register.
And then the first return would be, as you say.
But once you've chosen to join, you have got to do those quarterly submissions. You can't say, I don't want to do this one. You can't back out.
Yeah. You're in.
That's it. That's it until you cease trading. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And even if just a bit of clarity, even if, so say you're in it, you're mandated, you start in 6th of April 2026, you're in it because you're over 50k. Then you decide that the following year your income's going to drop and you're not going to be in it, or you're going to cease trading. Once you're in, you can only opt out after 3 consecutive tax years.
Right. Okay. Rachel is asking, do existing payments received from a pension count towards the income figure to decide whether MTD applies to me yet?
No, pension income's not in it.
Okay. Tony asking, do you publish a list of compatible software, especially without VAT? Not sure I get that question.
Especially without VAT. I think. Right,
we'll move on from that one, I think.
Yeah, not too sure about that yet.
Anonymous is asking, can you remind me what happens if your income was under 50,000? I am a first-year owner of a small business and a landlord. Should I still do MTD just to get ahead of the game?
Well, you could do because you're going to be in it the following year, so you might as well.
I would.
Like Karen said, learn the ropes on a year that they're not going to penalise you for it.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a question about software from Roberta. Is the NatWest Metal free software the same as the paid version? And is that a good choice? That could be.
I haven't used Metal. I have read quite a bit recently about quite a few of these challenger banks are offering software that will be MTD compatible, but I'm not sure if they're all out yet. So they're things that I'm going to be looking at over these next couple of months to see where they're up to with these, but I haven't used that one yet. I will have a look.
Haven't HMRC got a list?
Yeah, they've said this one on the website, but I was looking at it just before Christmas and it didn't have them all on.
Yeah, okay.
Which isn't helpful.
Yeah, they should be updating it, but I think if people monitor them and make sure they're getting something that's already been approved.
Yes, yeah. The software company themselves should tell you if it's approved. That's the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Couple of questions about Free Agent. Is Free Agent not free in brackets a good app to use? I know you mentioned that before, Karen.
It's a while since I've used Free Agent. If I'm completely honest, I can't get to use all of them, unfortunately. I do know people who've got it and they absolutely love it. I believe it's really good for subcontractors.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if there's an app. There might be. Might be some people on here today who are using it who could tell me if there's an app. But I do know it has the bank feeds.
Mhm.
That's one of the main things.
Okay. Going question again about recording here. So at the moment we record our expenses invoices on Sage. They load from our bank, but we don't take a photo of them. Will we now have to take a photo as well? Well, the answer was possibly to for your
Yeah,
own
they're not
sanity.
mandating that just yet, as long as you can still produce that documentation as needed. And but I just don't know where it's going to go, this, and how deep HMRC will eventually be able to look into this. But at the moment, that's not essential. It's advised. It's so much easier to be able to open a transaction in your software and then click on the attachment. It's so much easier to be able to do that. And it's also, I think it's really good for when bookkeepers, accountants are checking through your accounts because they
Yeah.
can just open that documentation and go, yeah, that's correct. I'm happy with that. Yes, that's claimable. Oh, I can do something with that. That needs to be prepaid. It's so much easier,
Mhm.
but
Okay.
it's not absolutely essential at this stage.
Mhm.
Got quite a few of these similar questions coming through, and you did touch on it before in your presentation, Karen. But for property owners, landlords, which software do you think would be the best?
I think Hammock. I've been
Yeah.
very impressed with Hammock, and how it works for landlords.
Yeah.
It's quite different to the likes of Zero, Sage, QuickBooks, Free Agent, and it's all centered around the property, and it gives you loan to value of the properties. It links with Zoopla. When you go into the software, it shows you a photograph of your property, and it'll, if you've got arrears, it's really good at managing the arrears with your tenants. If you've got arrangements for arrears, it handles all of that really well, and it's not
Okay.
expensive.
Okay. Another question we had about Zero, actually. I already
Mm.
use Zero. I do my own bookkeeping through bank feeds and have used it for years. How will this differ from what I do already?
You'll just be using the MTD module just to
Yeah.
submit the quarterly returns. Not that much different. If you're already using a software and Zero is compatible, has been approved, then it'll just be a case of that feature will just be turned on. I'm not sure it's available just yet, but it will be very soon.
Okay. Um, here's an interesting one about upskilling. So learning to use the full functionality of the software. How do you recommend we do that? And that's really sort of about learning how to use the individual software.
Learning how to use it. Yeah, exactly. You can look for some training. It's a lot of what we do is teaching people how to use their software properly and getting the most out of it. You need to either use a company like ours, or you might be able to find some help on the likes of YouTube, but you've got to make sure it's up to date. There's a lot of QuickBooks, for instance, on YouTube, but QuickBooks are worldwide. So you might end up learning something that's only on the American version, or not on the current version. And there's lots of different versions of it. So you just need to make sure you're looking at the right one. The companies themselves might be able to offer some training, but otherwise find a local provider, or like I say, Nikki's company, they provide some guidance and help on software. It's a big thing that we do is training, either online or face to face.
Yeah, we do as well.
Yeah.
This question here may apply in different the way it's posed, but me and my dad are both sole traders in different businesses. Can we share software, or would we each have to pay for our own software?
If they're two different businesses, I would say it would be, I don't think the software would be able to do two different returns from the
I think,
same
yeah, because
license.
yeah, I mean, there's two individuals there.
Yeah. Two
So
separate
two
companies.
separate, yeah. But even
Yeah.
if it was like an individual who had two companies, I've heard of software that you can have different companies on there if it's you. Whereas if it's two separate individuals, they'll have a different UTR number.
Yeah.
it'll be all the fundamentals that'll be wrong. No, they need separate
Yeah,
software.
it definitely needs to be separate. Yeah, two different licenses.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a fascinating question for you both. So Emma asks, my bookkeeper currently does my tax return. Should I be using an accountant instead for this?
Not
Bookkeepers are very often
necessarily.
qualified. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it's not something we do. We'd rather leave it to the accountants to do, but that's our choice. We could do them if we wanted to. And as long as you feel happy with the fact that your bookkeeper has the knowledge to be able to do it, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Um, Next question. How does the trading allowance work with making tax digital?
So you claim that as you're going along, within your quarterly returns, you can still claim it.
So what is the trading allowance? What I mean, just to unpick that question a little bit.
So the trading allowance is if you say you've got a side hustle, and your turnover is your expenses, sorry, are less than £1,000, you can just claim a flat rate trading allowance that HMRC allow. They've got a similar allowance for property letting. So if you've got very limited expenses on a rental property, then you can claim the property allowance. So it's just a flat rate, £1,000. So if you've got expenses and they're 800 quid, then you might as well claim the flat rate £1,000 because you're getting more relief.
So that means that you
That's
don't
nice.
have to process any business expenditure. You don't have to be getting receipts and
Yeah,
digitizing them, that kind of thing. You can just not put any expenses through and just
yeah,
claim that relief.
correct.
Okay. Okay. Question from Martin. It's a question not many people perhaps have asked today. Is it right that farmers are excluded from the MTD system currently?
I'm not a specialist in farmers.
No, me neither.
Like,
I've not seen
I guess
anything
it's how
about
the business is
farmers.
set up, though, isn't it? Whether it's
yeah,
limited or
yeah,
Yeah, I've only seen something that just says self-employed. I've not
yeah.
any specific industry.
Specific industry. No, I haven't
Um,
really. But like you just said there, Rob, which is a valid point. If they're a limited company, they're not in. If they're
no.
self-employed, then they're in. If they're a partnership, which some are partnerships, some farms are partnerships, they're not in either. So it depends on the structure.
right. Okay. Right. I'm just very, very conscious of the time. We're coming up to 2 minutes to the hour, and we will be finishing at 1 o'clock on the dot. So, I think maybe if we hand over to you guys, what if you had one tip each for MTD compliance support? What would it be? Karen, to you first, please.
Okay, I'd say just register. Go for it. Just do it. Tackle it head on.
Uh, Nikki.
I say plan ahead for any adjustments, make sure that you're getting those adjustments in, and you're claiming your reliefs. Do a final declaration checklist. So at least you're making sure that you don't forget about these things.
Right. Okay. We have got a couple of minutes though. So just any other questions that you're being asked by your clients that haven't been asked today that
Mm,
you're getting in
I've
as
got
common
one.
questions? Go on.
And I did notice on the Q&A somebody asked about this as well. And that's about this 5th of the month to the 6th of the month, or the 6th of the month to the 5th of the month. The first time you do a submission in your software, the software will allow you to change that to be calendar months instead, because sometimes having to do it from the 6th to the 5th is confusing. So it could be that you submit April, May, and June as calendar months. And as long as you select that option on the first return, it will continue to do that going forward. So it doesn't
Right.
matter when you think your year end is, it's not, it's the tax year end.
Right. Okay. Right. Just conscious of the time. So we've had there's so many questions. I apologize to those who've asked the question. We haven't got to it. We've just got so much on here. We have got a few months obviously before we go live MTD. So do farm out your questions to Karen or Nikki via the routes in as outlined already. If you have enjoyed today's session, please do go on to Trustpilot where we can put more of these events on, and your feedback will help us decide how we sort of help members and businesses going forward. If you're an FSB member, please do remember we have our tax helpline where you can ask your own questions, ring up, someone will ring you back. We have our tax legal helpline as well. So any kind of questions you have on these subjects, please do refer to the FSB website. Thank you for your time today. thank you to Karen and for Nikki today for giving up an hour of their time to answer your questions. I hope today has been useful. It is a big change coming. Good luck with it, and thank you for your attendance today.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.